Sav Othon, good morning. How are you? You're not in Dubai. Where are you?
I'm in Ras Al Khaimah, which is one of the seven emirates of the UAE, and I'm very well, thank you, Brad. How are you?
I'm good. I'm slightly envious of the blue sky and sunshine you've got as I look out my window and I see it raining.
Yeah, every day I wake up to sunshine, and I know it sounds a cliche, but here every day is sunshine, but maybe a little bit too hot at times.
Well, I've been to Dubai a number of times for work, and I do know that just from walking to the hotel, from the hotel to the office, I normally need to have a spare shirt in my bag.
Yeah, that's one of the quick learnings when you go out to work in the morning. You take your laptop, you take your pens, and you take another shirt,
It's
and
like another.
probably even another shirt.
Right, because even going outside for 5 minutes in the daytime, it can be oppressive. And I know, as someone who lives out of the UK, when I hear someone tell me it's 45 degrees, I know it sounds lovely to start with, but it probably has its moments where it's like, do you know what? Just cool down a little bit.
Yeah, even the animals don't want to go out in 45 degrees.
Which probably is helpful for what you do. As an executive director, you and I have known each other for more than 12 years.
Yeah,
We've worked together on leadership programs, management programs, and you've always had me come in and work with your teams. We've always been able to kind of create development programs. And I thought in these lockdown sessions podcasts, Sav, it would be really cool to get a perspective of somebody who's had a global role, sits at an exec level position, so right at the C level, and also works within innovation. And for 20 plus years, has kind of brought innovations to market, supporting essentially sort of public and business. And I always start these lockdown sessions in exactly the same way, by posing a question of, we've been in this situation. I know things are opening up around the world now as we speak, but over 100 days we all kind of spent in this kind of different
yeah.
space. What have you learned about yourself, about your business, your teams during this time? What have your observations been?
Wow, that's a massive question, and well, what I've observed, I can be quite an annoying person when I'm locked in a room, and that's what my family tell me as well, that I've got this ability just to have all this nervous energy all cooped up is no good for me. Um, I've also learned and continue to learn to be a lot more tolerant as well. Now for me, because I left the UK and arrived here to take this new position in June time. I've been here a year, but actually, I remember sitting here in December watching the news about this virus in China, thinking,
Right.
well, it's not going to reach here. We don't have to worry about it. And then you see it start hitting places that I've travelled before with my other job, and then it hits the UK. I think, well, this is now serious, and then it hits this country that I'm in now, the UAE. Um, you start to, I started to question a lot of the stuff of, so over the past 12 years, I've been away really from my family, traveling, and now I'm stuck in a house with them. Very quickly, I've got to learn how to be a father, be a husband. But really, we were just building a life here, and then we've got lockdown.
Yeah.
And so all the routine that you've started to build up, you've got to put to the side again, and essentially get in a house with my family and learn to live with them, which in itself is a massive learning experience. Believe it or not, it might sound strange, but me, Brad. I've been working away for these, for most of the last 10 years, been spending around the world. Now I've got to live with these people who have got a legal attachment, a legal duty, but also a moral duty, and my family, and so it's a very strange time.
Yeah.
So personally, it's been a lot of taking a deep breath every now and again, trying to control the frustrations, trying to enjoy our time together as well.
I think those last 2 points you make, I think, really resonate for me, because the frustrations for me were very much suddenly having, 2 grown-up kids in the house, 21 and 19, back from uni, and 4 grown adults living in the house, and all the food that got eaten. It was just
Yeah.
incredible. Um, but then actually starting to, do little fitness regimes with the kids, going running, or doing little sort of circuits outside in the garden. And we're lucky enough to have a garden. So I appreciate some people are living in apartments and, with no space and homeschooling young kids. We didn't have that. But I think that appreciation piece then comes in straight after, because you're right. Most of us will never get that chance, probably, to spend such a concentrated time not having to go into an office, actually with our family. And although I'm sure there are those where, there are tensions, and I was I was talking to a client the other day, a coachee, who is a family wealth lawyer, so she deals with high net worth divorces.
Right.
And she was saying it's amazing how many people are actually separating.
Yeah, I can believe that, and it's what you see as well. But Brad, on one of the first times I met you, I think it was the second time I met you. You were doing some coaching for me and my team, and you gave us a phrase that was, when someone's being quite aggressive or coming over quite aggressive, you say, "Do you mean to come across quite so aggressive?"
Right.
Well, I would tell anybody listening to this: do not try this on your wife. It's not. This is not a great idea, and probably would put ruin the day. But the interesting thing is, what I learned and the skills that I learned with you, and also managing my team, was to actually observe what was causing the stress and tensions, and watch some body language as well, and trying to adapt my approach, because that's one of the skills of management, is to adopt how you are, not just expect people to adapt to what you are, to how you are. So that's I'm not on the verge of divorce by any. I mean, this sounds terrible, doesn't it? I'm not on the verge of divorce by any means.
I can edit that out. I can edit it out if you want.
I've still got a very loving wife who I love, and beautiful children. But home life was very strange to me anyway when I started living with my family again, and even more so during the lockdown period. And also, when you look at business here in the UAE, especially in Ras Al Khaimah, which, if you look on the map, we're the most northern emirate. It's a beautiful place. We've got beaches, we've got the mountains, we've got the cities, modern infrastructure. But we take stuff for granted, like video calling, Google Hangouts, and Zoom. We've been using for a number of years over in the UK. And these westernized places have been using video conferences. It's nothing new.
Right.
Here, it's all done very much on still face to face, still very much on a very personal level. And so, when you haven't got that personal level, that you can't essentially rely on your face to face relationships, then people are learning how to use video conferencing. And the first things are always in the meeting: can you hear me? Can you see me? Is this working? And then people not looking at the camera, having the camera wrong, all those things that we
Yeah.
probably take for granted. There's still a whole load of probably the world that this type of technology is for business, certainly is still quite new.
And even when you say that, actually, it makes me laugh a little bit, because I kind of experienced the same thing with my parents, who are in their late 70s, and hadn't used video conferencing really before, and didn't at the beginning quite get where to kind of put the iPad compared to where they were
Yeah.
sitting. So it's like, Mum, I can see up your nose. Dad, you're just off camera. And now, they're setting up their own Zoom sessions. My mum's a piano teacher. She's teaching on Zoom. And
Right.
actually, we've had the technology in our pockets for a decade.
Yeah.
But now everybody's using them. And I think probably the most overused phrase over the last 4 months has probably been, I think you're on mute.
That's right. Yeah. Your microphone's not working.
It's funny.
But it was that learning curve. And what I did see, emails, again, the email traffic here is nothing like I experienced with my old company. But suddenly, when everyone was working from home, the email traffic has exploded.
Right.
And so I find I've got to do all these emails, whereas before it was you could walk freely into people's offices and shake the hand and sit down, have a cup of coffee, and actually get some stuff done face to face. Now it's email. So I think one of the downsides of this, and which I hope doesn't continue, is that we turn here, in particular, from my experience, we turn to a business culture which is on email focus, because what I experienced the first 6 months I was here was it was a more personal type of way of doing business, and I really hope we don't, it doesn't turn into that email culture. I think that would be a great shame.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you're right, particularly in the Middle East, there is that desire to have the contact. It's all about the contact, look into the eyes, shake hands. And listening to you, I'm thinking actually a lot of people felt, especially in the early days, they were kind of needing to prove they were working as well.
Yeah.
So this flurry of emails was very much about almost people being 24/7 on call. I'm working. Don't worry, boss. I'm working. I'm not just sat at home, fooling around with the kids or watching, satellite TV. How did you kind of encourage your team to not feel as though they had to prove themselves? Because so much of what we do is about what we get done and how we get it done. And all of a sudden, you couldn't see the how. It is about
Yeah.
just what gets done. How did you encourage that kind of enabled environment to
It
get the
was
team operating in that way?
it was about more reassurance than I was doing before. I know you're working. You've got your tasks that you need to do. You know what needs to be done, and also a weekly team uh, video call has worked wonders, because then they don't have to keep on trying to prove throughout the week they're doing stuff. At the end of the week, we have this video call, and everyone's talking about what they've done and what objectives they've got done off their list. And also, what I've noticed as well, they're working together more. So instead of these different silos, because essentially I've got 5, 6, 7 big departments within my agency, um, right from landscaping and irrigation to pest control to animal welfare. Now we're all coming together on a weekly call and discussing what's the highs and lows of the week. And what I found is the reassurance, or the need for reassurance, has dropped down a little bit. And it's all about me telling, I know what you're doing, or this is great work. And WhatsApp as well, these group chats allow them to send photos and for almost that instant recognition. I've just finished this, just to let you know, I've just completed this. So I think the culture here is still very much working from home, or I might be seen as I'm relaxing at home, because everyone is always out with that personal relationships. What I hope is that we can start to work on more trust basis, that okay, if you're working from home, it doesn't mean that you're not working. It's all still very new. And something else that we've really seen over here is that, I make it sound like the technology is not used, but the schools here, I've got a 12-year-old daughter. They were very quick. They gave the children laptop computers. There's online teaching where the teachers are actively teaching the children, not recorded sessions. The submission of homework, and from my sister in the UK, I hear that has not been the case. So conversely, where I'm in a country or an emirates that is not using technology to the full in business, maybe actually for the education, they're using it over and above anything you would experience usually.
And I suppose what it lends itself to is the new order, whatever that is. When we come back, creating a kind of, people are talking about psychological safety, but I think this is slightly different. It's more about that kind of that mental focus of what does work actually mean, because not everybody's going to want to just snap back into how things used to be.
Yeah, I know you guys over there in the UK as well. You've got the furlough scheme
Right.
going on, and I think I think there's a risk there from creating the culture of actually I can survive on my 80% wage. Why do I want to go back? Or this has worked. Or companies conversely, this has worked really well. Why do we actually need a physical office anymore?
And I was talking to one of my coaches the other day, although we were joking about it, which was probably insensitive. I was saying how I wouldn't want to be in commercial property right now.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need an office, and I think it's always been there in the back of everyone's mind that actually the technology is good enough. The Wi-Fi links are the internet links are good enough. The communication tools are coming on. You know, every week there's a new communication tool or new web service that you can dive into. So I think a lot of companies have been asking themselves, why do we need physical offices? Okay, shop fronts are still needed, of course. People are still going to the shops. But why does everyone need to go to one place to get their work done? And I learned that in my old company very quickly. You know, we were that company. I'm not going to mention them, but they were, I think, one of the early adopters of using technology in order to enable more efficient working or more productive working.
We do need to think about a kind of innovative approach, because I think the furlough scheme has positives and negatives attached to it here, for sure. There are some people. I noticed someone on LinkedIn posted something quite funny the other day, and they were saying how, is furlough just a perfect cover for lazy people? And it was fairly it was fairly militant, and they apologized up front for being militant, but they were saying how, you know, they furloughed everybody, and then they're trying to bring people back to work, and they've created an environment that is completely as safe can be. You know, 2-meter markings on the floor, perspex coverings and dividers, masks at front desk that are
Yeah,
disposable at the end of the day. I mean, like, as much as they could do, they've done.
yeah.
But this individual is saying that more than 20% of the business is saying, "Oh, you know, I don't really want to. I don't know if I want to come back to work yet." And whereas they accepted that some are shielding parents or have some issues, you know, my parents are late 70s, and have been shielding since the beginning of March. And if I start going out doing my training in groups, they become more nervous of seeing me. So I have to be mindful of that. But this person was saying there are some people who are using it as leverage to basically stay at home and earn 80% of their salary for doing nothing.
Right, and but I think that's part of the. Look, you go back to the when I started my career. It started in the 1990s, where health and safety was just coming in. Now you do get occasions where people hide behind health and safety for not doing stuff. You know, health and safety. Oh, it's not safe. I can't do this. Most of the time, 90%. Don't get me wrong. Now, I'm not saying everyone should go and do work unsafe, but the stuff that has been put forward, oh, it's not safe to do, when it's perfectly safe and it's just being used as an excuse. And I think this has all markings of no, it's not safe for me. I don't feel it's safe to come back to work at the moment, and the caring culture which has been put forward quite rightly by businesses of looking after their employees, making sure the well-being, the education programs, the courses that are a cornerstone of big business, they're in danger of actually what they've created is a culture where people are encouraged to hide behind reasons not to do stuff, and I think
Right.
that's a really dangerous position to be in.
Yeah, because actually we become institutionalized really quickly, like
Hmm.
really quickly. And I know here, even even when I look at the kids at home, we were chatting at dinner the other night about what are you comfortable doing? We're opening up here quite a bit in the UK, and we were saying, would you be prepared to go to the pub, to the cinema, to the gym? And I'm quite clear. I don't want to go back to the gym.
Right.
I don't feel the gym with all that sweat and
Yeah.
all that suppressed air is a good place for me to go. And even before we had lockdown, I was running in latex gloves that was actually quite uncomfortable. Um, Cinema, I'm not sure about if I want to be in an enclosed space. I
Oh.
don't feel ready to go into an enclosed space. And that's that I can feel that sort of that I'm sensitive to it.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. Again, we've over here we've got very clear guidelines on how to protect ourselves. So we're all wearing face masks. You can't go out without your face mask. You can't go into place without a face mask. Everything is being sanitized. We've got walk-through doorways that when you go into a shopping mall, you've got sanitizer um, walkthroughs to go through. The security in all the malls, they're measuring thermally your temperature as you walk in there. Uh, the sanitizer everywhere, free of charge. There's masks everywhere, free of charge. There's gloves everywhere, free of charge. There's no reason why you shouldn't or why you can't wear the masks or the gloves. And the compliance level, I have to say, is high. Would I go and sit in a cinema with a face mask on and gloves? I think probably, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be uncomfortable, isn't it? It's going to be
Yeah,
difficult. And one of the great things about going to the cinema for me is you get a big load of popcorn, you get a nice big drink. How are you going to eat this through a mask, really?
right. Yeah, and I mean, both you and I have travelled extensively in our careers, and I know that when my last travel was coming back from Spain in late January, and the virus was known about, but we didn't quite know how it was behaving or quite how long it had been out. And my sense is that perhaps it had been in Europe pre-Christmas anyway.
Mm.
Um, I remember getting on the plane, and someone at the back coughed. Well, they were like they had the dreaded lurgy, and you could see everybody start covering themselves up and but it's that sensitivity. And a colleague of mine had to travel the other day from Germany to Romania, and he posted a picture on of a video online of the plane.
Right.
And I won't mention the name of the airlines, but it's a well-known German uh, budget airline. And he said that the whole way through the airport, every 10 minutes someone comes on the speaker to announce social distancing,
Yeah.
masks, gloves, sanitizer where they can find it, wash your hands, queues everywhere in an appropriate way, no one getting funny. Even the boarding was done with social distancing.
Right.
And then every seat on the plane was packed.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, what's the point?
Yeah. It's a bit like that, isn't it? And I think some activities, for example, swimming pools, you can. How do you segregate people from the swimming pools and beaches
Right.
when they're in the water? Okay, you can put lanes on the sand to stop people. You can put circles on the ground. One family in this circle, one family in this, 2 meters apart. But when they go in the water, how can you segregate people or stop them? You
You
can't.
can't.
now the danger, and I think this has been said many times around the place. The danger now is that we've got complacent of having COVID-19 as part of our everyday lives, and we go out and we sort of forget it's there, and we're going to carry on as we are as we start getting back to normal. You can go and buy a car, you can get on a bus, you can go into cinemas, you can go here, you can. So I don't have the answer. I'm just saying, psychologically, people now believe that the danger's gone, but I don't think we're going to be free of this. I think this is, and it is. This is life changing. The first thing
Yeah.
you do when you go out the house here, where's my face mask?
Right.
That's like just inbuilt. You're going in a mall. You're thinking nothing of it now that the guy's coming up and taking your temperature with a thermal scanner. You think nothing. It's normality. My wife's
I,
saying she's never bought as much hand soap as she's bought since being here. Because
well,
first thing you do, you come in the house, you wash your hands.
correct. Yeah, yeah, and I've noticed it the same. In fact, that was something we all noticed, was actually the routine, how quickly you can get into that routine of washing hands. We're not as compliant here in the UK. So you've got, the anti-vaxxers, the non-mask brigades,
Right.
and I don't get it. Even to go shopping, if I'm going anywhere where I'm going to have to go inside and be around other people, it's gloves and a mask. And I
Yeah.
don't get why anyone wouldn't do that. Especially when I hear some leaders of the free world talk about how it doesn't make you look manly enough, which in itself is just the wrong thing to say.
Crazy.
I joked with someone the other day because I commented on this particular individual's Twitter feed, and I got blocked. I've never been blocked by a president, but I am blocked on Twitter by that
Well,
particular one.
at least he knows your name.
Or someone in his admin team does,
Yeah.
which is perhaps more the people who block. Sav, I'm interested as well. When you look at the team, how have you noticed their behaviour? Have you noticed any changes in them?
Uh, the, so here, there's a lot more fear of becoming sick or catching this COVID, and we've had to go through a whole education program about what is COVID, how can you catch it. It doesn't go through your skin. There's people who don't want to sit physically, they don't want to sit on a chair because they think it's going to go through their clothes and go through their skin and get into their body. There's a lot of fear about this, and just calming people down and trying to educate them as much as I can has helped. The everyday handshake has disappeared. That was one of the first things we noticed, but people are still coming up because it's so ingrained into people's psyche of how you go to somebody. You shake hands over here,
Yeah.
and getting rid of that handshake has been really difficult. We put signs up in the office: "Do not shake hands."
Right.
And it's like, oh, what do you mean I can't shake hands? No, you can't shake hands.
Yeah.
And the in some parts of the world as well that I've been before, when you see cultural habits of spitting on the floor, how do you actually start to
Right.
stop that when it's culturally ingrained in some countries that it's acceptable? So going back to the team that I have the pleasure of managing now, is that it's about education, it's about talking, it's about trying to overcome the fear, but also giving the reality check of, I don't want anyone in the field without the mask on. I don't want anyone in the office without a mask on. When you come in the office, you sanitize. We've got cleaners sanitizing every handle in the office every 30 minutes. Every touch point is sanitized. The whole office is sanitized every morning. That's been a big shift, but it's happening, and by the grace of God, we've been okay.
Yeah, and I think, of course, the bottom line when all the data comes out is that the mortality rate will probably across the globe be just under 5%, maybe. It might even be under 3%.
Right.
And that will be because of extremes in certain regions.
Yeah.
And actually, in most countries, it's in and around 2%. It's not high, and of course there are certain groups that are more at risk. But I think that you're right when you said before we have to live with this, and it kind of will change the landscape of how we do work, how we lead, how we manage, how we do business. And actually just how we live. You were just talking before, you don't even think about it. If you walk into a mall, you get your temperature taken.
Yeah.
Your wife hasn't bought, sanitizer like it's going out of fashion. And I think for me, when I think about coaching and leadership programs that we're running, the question that a lot of leaders are asking is, how do I make it safe for my team to come back? How do I make sure that they feel comfortable coming back to work in whatever capacity that is? And my last question to you today, Sav, is as a leader, as a senior leader in a business, what are your kind of top 3 priorities for the people in your business when it comes to kind of moving into this kind of recovery phase that we're in?
So for number one is to make sure that we have the safest environment. So the social distancing measures of whether it's 2 meters or 1 meter next week or half a meter, what it goes down to. But it's about making sure that I've got ingrained into people's minds their routine of when they enter the office is I want them to sanitize their hands. If the directive is you wear a mask, you wear a mask. You're not here to question that. I don't have to wear a mask because X, Y, and Z. So get them into a routine is going to be the number one thing. The second is make sure they're educated and appreciate how their actions will impact somebody else's. So you're wearing a mask not to protect yourself, it's to protect other people. Because one thing here is it's very respectful. So we haven't suffered from the food shortages or the queues in supermarkets. Everyone's been thinking about, there's been a lot of charity work going on here about has my neighbour got enough, and I'll go around and take what I've bought and share it with my neighbour, which in itself probably isn't the right thing to do when you're trying to control infection. But it is that respect and respecting each other. Know why you're wearing a mask. It's not for yourself. And then the last thing I would say is to give them clear goals and clear targets, and don't make them feel like they have to be in the office or they have to be in your view in order to achieve those goals or targets. If you give them clear goals and targets and make sure they're equipped, they'll achieve them. Just give them a little bit of trust and a little bit of freedom to go and do a great job for you.
I like that, because that last one for me is what leadership can really be about, which is enabling others to act, give the direction and let them fly.
Yeah.
So I like that. Sam, that's great. I feel like we've reached sort of come full circle. We started off thinking about you, and we finished off talking about the team. I like that a lot. The time seems to have gone very quickly. Maybe we'll come back again in a couple of months. You'll do another episode with me.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fun, Brad. Thank you very much.
I love it. Thanks, Al. See you soon. You take care.
And you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.